that's a big one. The grass-fed butter or the ghee is another big one because they're releasing CLA. You know what I mean? And it's a big deal for metabolism. That's where the fats come in, where people are missing it. It's just about, eating the right kind of fats. And you want to avoid the seed oils. You want to avoid like the heavy sugars and things like that. So I'm not saying all fats are good. I'm saying the healthy fats, you need them. You thrive on them, and they're metabolism boosters.
Good morning and welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Shivani Gupta, and this is the podcast dedicating to recalibrating your health every day. My goal is to help you wake up each day energized by addressing root causes and giving you new approaches to preventive health. The more we know about integrative health, the more empowered we are in building the vibrant health we want. Welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta, and I have an incredible guest in store for you today, Dylan Gemelli. He is a prominent figure in the fitness and biohacking industry. He's known for his expertise in health, fitness, and performance enhancement. And Dylan is the creator of the Dylan Gemelli podcast, which features enlightening discussions with experts and influencers in the health and wellness space. His work focuses on improving quality of life through biohacking, fitness, and longevity strategies. He's also involved in educating people about topics like testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, peptides, SARMs, steroids, and other performance-enhancing substances. He's built his Instagram to over 1.5 million followers and has a very strong presence on YouTube, where his channel, Dylan Gemelli Biohacking, has over 82,000 subscribers and features hundreds of videos on health, fitness, and biohacking. Well, Dylan, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you, and I'm excited to talk with you today.
I'm excited to talk to you because I always love learning anything I can about how we can stay our fittest, our healthiest. I feel like we have to keep reaching into the toolkits when it comes to what's available to us. And I was just sharing on a podcast today that I was being interviewed on. I said, you know what? As you age, I think you got to reach into all the toolkits.
Oh, yeah.
Before I could be really natural and holistic and integrative, and I still very much believe in that. But somehow at 44, I've hit a wall where I had to reach into both sides. And I'm calling it my new hybrid toolkit, where the Western medicine, biohacking, like really kind of heavy duty toolkit with peptides and hormone replacement therapy and everything has a lot to give. And I kind of need it. So will you kick us off with what led you to do what you're doing? And then we're going to talk about some of the cool things that I mentioned that you're into.
Yeah, definitely. So, I started studying nutrition when I was 11 years old. Now, mind you, that was kind of resulted around being like overweight as a very young kid and then having this huge growth spurt. I was always an athlete, but still like 5'8" and overweight. And then all of a sudden, boom, 6'1" from 7th to 8th grade, lost like 25, 30 pounds. And then, it became this, I don't ever want to go through that again. I don't ever want to live that, which, leads to some trauma throughout your life that I've dealt with, really up until recently, where I kind of finally just overcame all of this. But that's when I started. And, I was a 4-sport athlete in high school. I played college basketball, and then I started to get into fashion modeling. So you can see the trajectory of, it's like, focus on how you look, focus on your weight, focus on how you look, be an athlete, do this. So I just started to put it all together. When I was in school, I started with exercise science, but I changed to business and finance, knowing that I could get all of my certifications that I needed to do without the realization now, understanding it certainly would be nice to have like an MD or the CNS, which I'm actually in the process of going back and getting my certified nutrition, actual, profession right now. I'm getting ready to enroll just so I have that credential. Even though I have the knowledge, if you don't have the credential, you know how that works.
Yes.
So I have all the experience in the world, but it doesn't matter when it comes right down to the paper. So I started to do videos in 2011. and people just weren't doing, there was no influencers. It was very rare in terms of the things I was getting into. I was approached by a supplement company I was working with that wanted me to start doing videos on steroids. And I had already been in trouble prior, and I was just like, okay, is this legal? That's my first question. Is this okay to do? Because I cannot get in trouble again. And, once I found out that it was legal, I said, you know what? I got none to lose and I've got everything to gain. So I started to do that. And then they approached me with this. They wanted me to start marketing SARMs and peptides, which nobody had heard of or talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, hey, I want to be credible. I will certainly market these after I learn about them. So what I did was immerse myself. And when I tell you I immersed myself, I would be up till 3 and 4 in the morning just reading.
Okay. What is a SARM?
So a SARM is a selective androgen receptor modulator. And so when you're looking at these, they're like termed research chemicals because that's the only way you can sell them legally. But they generally were designed, if you go back and look at, for most of them, early stages, it always reverts back to these are designed for osteoporosis patients and to prevent muscle wastage. So like cancer patients, HIV patients, that's what these were originally designed for. Well, the bodybuilders figured out that these work similarly to steroids without a lot of the side effects, at least early stages. Now they've created these to where they're basically just like running steroids, the newer versions. But that's like a whole nother topic that we could get into. So, I started to do these videos and, my channels just grew and grew because, like I said, nobody was talking about them.
Sure.
And, I try to be a personality and a character along with my delivery. Some people like it, some people don't. You know how that works. But it evolved over the years to where this year, I was invited to speak at the Mr. Olympia with all the doctors and practitioners, which to me was like, wow, they're taking an influencer and putting me on stage with the real deal.
Yeah.
And I gained a lot of really respect, I guess, that felt great and made so many contacts through the networking. So, I'm pumped, I'm jacked, I get home and I'm like, let's roll. And I got COVID, like right when I got home.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And so I'm a very spiritual guy. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to trust in whatever God's reasoning is here for me. I don't know what it is, but there has to be a reason that maybe I just need to slow down a minute because I want to capitalize on everything,
Sure.
And when I was at the Mr. Olympia, I ended up also getting an opportunity to be a co-host on a Monica Brandt show when she was the former Miss Olympia. Well, we were sponsored by Stem Regen, which is big in the biohacking industry with stem cells.
Yeah.
So I spoke with them a lot, talked with them a lot. Well, the point in the story is when I got home, I started researching them and realized this term biohacking is really, really, really what I do and what I'm meant to do.
Nice.
It's everything that in my work, everything that I'm involved in. And so throughout that time of being sick, I just started going through and learning about different biohackers and who they were. And I just started approaching the biggest names there were. And I couldn't believe the feedback I got and the people I got on podcasts. I got invited to Eudaimonia, then now the A4M on the, with all of that. And I mean, it has gone from 0 to 1 million in like 2 months.
Wow. That's cool.
Well, I feel like that's what I was like really called to do is this. I'm not one of the bros, and that's the group that I've been in for the past decade. I love them, but that's not who I am. This is who I am. So this is where I'm at now. And like, I got to meet you. I got to meet so many different people in this industry, and it's like a perfect fit. Everybody I talk with, I find a way to click with somehow. And I'm learning from different people and also giving to people that haven't had people like me to their audience. So that's where we're at.
Very cool. So as someone who came from fitness, really from bodybuilding, fitness, and all the things it takes to really build muscle and be in that world, and then you just came into biohacking, which biohacking is, to me, like, we've been talking about longevity and anti-aging forever. Biohacking is this world now where we talk a lot about the tools we can use for anti-aging and longevity. What is your perspective when you look at all the tools? Do you look at it like, God, this is a lot of tech? Or do you look at it as, dang, I wish I had these all 20 years ago. If I had known about this space and been part of it when it was beginning, this would have been real interesting. Or do you look at it from the standpoint of like, I'm in fitness. I already know how to build a phenomenally healthy body. I come from those building blocks. And now this is like a new world, but it'll just enhance what I've already been doing.
So it's like two worlds collide type of deal, right? So it's on one hand, I have a good knowledge base on anti-aging as it is through different mechanisms. So one is like your peptides that I'm well versed on that I already knew with anti-aging, your HGHs, things like that. Two, I come from the modeling background. So I started anti-aging myself in my middle 20s because I had no choice. I was doing skin regimens. I was doing the things that we knew how to do then. Now, clearly things have evolved and changed. The difference is now I'm learning about new technologies and things that I wasn't aware of. So when I go to these conferences, like, we go to those expos, we meet, we learn, we see new things to utilize, like red light therapy, for example. That was not on my radar. And that's something I implement. But then when I started to sit down and because I've heard the term biohacking and I never gave it the time of day. I just never did. And then you look at it and you realize how simplistic that it really is. These basic things, getting up in the morning, going for walks, getting into the sunlight, finding yourself while you're outdoors. I mean, some of the stuff is so basic and so common knowledge. And it's like, these are things that once you actually start doing them, if you don't laugh it off and go, oh, this is stupid, these people are weird, if you actually go do it, and you implement it, and then you look back a couple weeks and then you go, man, I feel way different. Like I have to do this every day now. And there's a reason why. And I look better. I feel better. I can't tell you how many people tell me like your skin looks so much better. You're so less stressed. You have so much more energy. I mean, it's a lot of it is things I was already doing and I realized, but I didn't know how to put it together. And I think with being around this, it's helped me to put it all together and it's helped me to improve myself, which then allows me to do more for other people that I'm trying to help, because you can't help other people if you're not helping yourself first. You just can't.
True. And that happens so much in the space. We become practitioners. We want to help everyone. We think the wisdom is so good, so it has to be shared. And then we forget ourselves in the process.
Yeah. And all you're doing there is yourself a disservice, and then you're not being able to provide what you want to for others. And if you go back and look at it, which I have done, I'm a good reflector. And I'm like, man, for the longest time, I wasn't really good to other people because I wasn't even being good to myself. And it was taken away from things. And you'll notice stress levels will go down. You'll focus on sleeping more. You'll focus on eating, timing, like little things that maybe you weren't focusing on. And then when it all comes together, it's kind of mind blowing. And there's always something to work on, always. But there's less to work on once you start to figure things out.
True. And so much of what you named just now is what we call in Ayurveda circadian rhythm.
Yes.
Ayurveda created circadian rhythm and said, if you just live according to nature's clock, everything will fall into place. Rise with the sun, set with the sun, eat lunch in the middle of the day, honor 10 to 2 on that circadian clock as the middle of the day, time to eat and do your big things. In the evening, make sure you're sleeping 10 to 2, clearing out and detoxing the body. Honoring sleep is the key to everything. So it's so cool to hear you mention it. 'Cause I'm like, this is all circadian rhythm. You're right. Yeah. One cornerstone of biohacking is circadian living, really.
Right. Yes. And that's one of the things that I'm learning that I'm working on. I was aware of it, but not necessarily aware of the ultimate importance of it.
Right.
And the timing is getting better. Like everything is coming together.
Nice. A lot of times when I talk to people about biohacking, they have a problem with it. They're like, biohacking, that word, why would you hack yourself? I don't get it. We don't have to buy expensive tools to win at our health. I put it into like when I podcast pitch to be interviewed on podcasts and people will email back and be like, we don't need biohackers. And I'm like, I'm teaching ancient Ayurvedic wisdom.
Right.
And biohacking is... if you think about it, Ayurveda was the original biohacking toolkit because we taught circadian rhythm, healthy eating, move in nature, a lot of these ideas, detoxification, which is part of biohacking. So how do you encapsulate biohacking and what does it mean to you to build it into your life the way you do now?
So I actually, you know what I did to make it so simple? Because I look at biohacking like when Bitcoin came out and people made it so difficult, yet it was so not.
Yeah.
Because they take a term or they take an idea and you develop this like idea of what it is before you even know what it is.
Right.
And, we do that in life with everything we do. I've made judgments about people before that I thought that, I just don't like this person. And I just ended up loving them, or foods that I thought, I'm not doing that. No. And then I love it.
Right.
So what I did was I made a very, very detailed yet simplistic video on what biohacking actually is by definition.
Nice.
And I put that out. And I will tell you that what I believe that biohacking starts and ends with before all else is finding yourself. I don't think you can biohack a thing if you don't find yourself first. And I'm meaning like your purposes, being good with yourself, being happy with yourself, liking what you see in the mirror, coming to grips with certain, strengths that you have, as well as weaknesses, and putting it all together and addressing them and being honest with yourself and accountable. And once you're able to do that, then you can really start to become healthy and biohack yourself. And when I say biohack yourself, it is not some complicated thing. It is just figuring out what is the best for your health and longevity. Now, there's different things to do. For instance, I believe diet is at the very, very forefront of the list of things that needs to be addressed before any and all else. I would argue sleep, yes. But even with sleep, if your diet's off, you're not going to sleep right.
True.
So after finding yourself, I go straight to diet. It really starts and ends there. Because that is the hardest thing for everybody.
True.
It's the hardest thing to be consistent with and to figure out because you have to be adaptable as you age. And one of the things that, and people don't like to do this, but if you go, for instance, it would be good to go have like your DNA checked to see certain things like how your body will metabolize fats, carbs, and things of that nature based upon your DNA. That's not a guarantee, but it's a good starting point. I'm working on collecting data right now with a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, so I can personally see how my spikes are and if I'm controlling them, and I have methods of controlling them, and I'm going to test it with these methods and without to see, okay, if I'm adding fats to my carbs, is that helping to control the spikes? If I'm preloading some veggies before I eat my carbs, is that helping? And then if I don't do any of this, is it making a difference?
True.
So I'm working on data now. But diet, it doesn't have to be as difficult as people make it if you just study it and you learn about it. And I understand that not everybody can afford the certain diets, but I would advise this. Look at your finances if you can and decide where you can make changes, because what you're putting into your body is the most important of anything else that you're doing. And I think you'll find that there's things that you're spending your money on that you could easily knock off and get better foods and put them in for yourself, because you don't understand or know the way these foods are affecting you mentally and physically. And then after the diet aspect, I would say, just the physical training, the working out, the exercising, the cardio, and also implementing, strength training, resistance training. They're both very, very important. These are all things that I think are important. And then, like I said, just doing basics, getting outside, going for walks, getting sunlight in the morning, walking after a meal, especially a heavy carb meal, 5-10 minutes. These things work. Learning and understanding about glucose, glucose spikes, blood sugar spikes, making sure that you're watching your macronutrients, not necessarily counting calories. I have been the biggest calorie counter and this and that and driven myself crazy. And now I've come to the realization it's really more looking at your macronutrients and how full you are and how your body's responding. I've increased my calorie intake 800 calories from where I was at, and I am more cut, more shredded, more ripped, and I feel so much better than I ever did. Literally. Because I was lacking. I was going against everything I was teaching people, So not being hypocritical and not being your worst enemy, not being hard on yourself, understanding like things like cortisol and stress and those types, how that can affect your body, getting regular blood tests done, at least twice a year, depending on your age. But I would still certainly recommend doing that. Understanding panels. So I do hormone optimization, right? And people will come to me and I'll explain to them about the importance of doing the panels that you really need, not just what the doctor gives.
I agree.
So like, for instance, the one that I'm the biggest on is a comprehensive cholesterol profile.
Sure.
You're testing your HDL, your LDL, and your triglycerides. You do need to know those numbers, but those are not the silent killers or markers you need to know.
Yeah.
You need to know your ApoB, your LP little a, your particle sizes. That's where the problems lie, not where they lead you to believe they lie so they can put you on a statin. I need to see, you know what I mean? And then there's other comprehensive markers to look at, but that's the main one. So these are all things, counting steps, wearing wearable technologies, if you like to, just things that you can implement to get a better and bigger picture of what you're doing, not just trying to wing it.
True. I think we have such an opportunity to gather data on ourselves and then know the truth. And oftentimes that data speaks for itself. I've used CGMs. That was real enlightening on what just shoved my blood sugar up so high. And I was like, okay, never doing that again. Now I know what affects me directly. The Aura Ring for sleep is so helpful. Like you said, having deeper blood work, counting our steps is simple. Mm-hmm. And we think of it as, that's just so basic. But if we're not moving enough in our day, that's a real problem.
Yeah.
So I love that you covered a lot of these basics. When it comes to hormone optimization, I know men and women are different. This has been my year of really optimizing and digging into the numbers. I found that my regular PCP wasn't willing to do it. I had to go way outside that. I have to pay cash all the time for the bigger blood work that I want. Mm-hmm. And I had been saying, guys, I think I have no progesterone. You're not listening. Finally, through all the testing, I was right. And then it took time to find someone to prescribe. So when it comes to hormone optimization, what are some things that you wish people looked at and paid attention to? And what are those things that we need to optimize or else?
So like for men, for instance, a lot of men will focus on their total testosterone number, when in reality, they need to be looking at their free testosterone number, which is going to give a better picture. Because sometimes your total testosterone number could be proper, but your free is not. Now, you have to look. Also, let's say your total testosterone number is low. You don't just immediately assume you need TRT. There's so many other things that could be contributing to that. So, for instance, with your free testosterone, if your SHBG, which is sex hormone binding globulin, is high, it's bounding up your free testosterone. So instead of thinking, I need TRT, let's figure out how do we lower your SHBG and release this testosterone, and then we'll see if you actually need it. So, those absolutely need to be, in harmony together. And men and women need to realize. So for men, we need estrogen still. It's not our dominant, and we don't need a ton, but just like women need testosterone. Most women are not looking to test their testosterone levels. They're just not. And a lot of guys, unless they're steroid users or like people in bodybuilding, generally aren't checking estradiol or understand anything to do with it. They just don't. And one of the things with men, for instance, if you have a higher body fat, you're converting estrogen at a much higher rate, right? And it can get out of line, it can get out of whack. And then there's the prolactin estrogen ratios. And most doctors will never check any of this stuff. Mm. And women that testosterone and progesterone, they're not even on the radar. They're not.
I'm taking testosterone, I feel better.
Yeah.
I had said to my doctors, I said, I'm a very motivated woman. Mm-hmm. When I set my mind to something, I will win. And I said, it's interesting. I have low testosterone. I wonder if it optimized me for testosterone, what it would feel like. And I can tell you, as an entrepreneur, I feel like I'm like a triple entrepreneur in my body right now, because it's the level of motivation I have for my work and for life just shifted. And why aren't we talking about that more? Why aren't we doing more testosterone in women and optimizing for that? And everything else. I think the conversation around menopause right now is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
We need to start bringing in estrogen. Estrogen's not evil and all these things. So it's interesting just that people aren't aware. And a lot of times people say, I went to the doctor. They just didn't say. I'm like, yeah, I went forever. They wouldn't agree with me, even though I would push hard for my agendas. So I had to find a new doctor team, and I keep doing that. you know?
Well, and that's here's part of the problem. And I don't want to demonize doctors because I have met some geniuses lately, but people like you and other doctors I've met, I'm not talking about general practitioners here.
Yeah.
Because you go to a general practitioner, they're going to do your lab work. They're going to do two things. They're going to do a CMP and a CBC. So they're going to do a comprehensive metabolic profile, which is going to be minimal as opposed to what you could go get at Quest. And when I say that to people watching, I'm talking about like liver tests, kidney tests, things like that. Then they're going to do a CBC. They're going to look at your red blood cell counts, your white blood cells, and some breakdowns in there, neutrophils, leukocytes, like things like that. But they're not going to get into depth or detail. And they're going to look at something like, for instance, my liver values now, and you and I will understand this, but some people don't. So we're looking at ALT and AST, right? You know, they're supposed to generally be like 20 to 40, and give or take, depending on what lab you're looking at, because those, you know, now they're all over the place. My AST was over 200, and my doctor's like, "Oh, you're slightly elevated," and I was looking at him like, "Bro, what do you mean I'm slightly elevated? That is jacked. That is horrible."
Yeah.
And, you know, they don't, you got to remember the term general practitioner means it's very general, very broad. They're seeing how many patients a day, and you're in there like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. This is why I go to functional medicine. I've literally reprioritized my life budget to fully focus on health, because the level of investment it takes to optimize for health is completely different than what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like you said, I was at the doctor and I said, you know, I think I have low progesterone. Let's test it. Let's test it in the blood work. She goes, yeah, you are pretty low. And I was like, oh, what's my number? She goes, 0. I was like, 0 is not low. 0 is called nothing, catastrophic. You have nothing in you. Let's start from ground zero. But she was like, yeah, you're kind of low. And I was like,
you mean we're non-existent is what you mean.
Exactly.
Gosh, yeah.
So when you talk about peptides, I was talking to someone today about peptides, and they're like, well, you know, what are these peptides for? Why are they less available? I was like, do you know why they're less available? Because they're phenomenal and they can do so much for us. So how have you been using peptides, and what are some of your favorites, and what would you recommend in terms of for different things that you've used them for?
So I'm going to take you back real quick. So when I started, there was essentially less than 10 peptides to choose from, because now, you know, there's thousands, right? More so hundreds that you're going to go find to buy and whatever, but really thousands out there. So when I started, we're looking at GHRPs, which are growth releasing hormone peptides, meaning they stimulate your human growth hormone. Basically, they help to release it. So, and then your growth releasing hormones like as well that are involved in there. And then there was like melanotan 2, which is like a tanning peptide. There was a couple things in there like that. So we were looking at ipamorelin, sermorelin, hexarelin, things like that are still popular now, but not nearly as popular as certain things now. So right now, the craze, which you're aware of, are GLP-1s, which is your Ozempic, semaglutide, your Mounjaro, tirzepatide. And now there's one coming out that some people are on that they understand what it is. People in the know, it's called retatrutide. So we tier these up. So Ozempic is your entry level. It's very strong. Don't get me wrong when I say this.
Sure.
Then tirzepatide is your next level up, because that's a GLP with an added GIP to it. And then retatrutide is on this extremely high level. It's still going through trials, but you can still get it at research chemical companies, which are like underground laboratories that you can buy from. That's on a whole nother level of strong. Like, you know, it's hard to explain but the percentages of the kind of weight you can lose, it drastically goes up higher. And we're talking about like $1 billion industry in just those 3, literally. Sure. That's just 3. So now we're looking at the fact that people in the past, what are we, 2024? I would say the past 6-7 years, I started to see like certain anti-aging clinics writing scripts in like 2018. And I was like, how in the world are they doing this? Because this is totally underground stuff, research chemical sites. So when I say research chemical sites, these are places that label everything not for human consumption. And if they market it towards athletes towards you can get this result or anything, they could get shut down by the FDA.
Sure.
Okay. So it has to be done as a research site only. So if you're buying these, it's for research purposes that you're using them on like rats or whatever. Okay. Now that's the way it's supposed to be. The FDA comes and goes and they don't really mess with them right now at all. So a lot of them are getting away with murder in terms of their marketing, but technically, legally speaking, that's what it's supposed to be. Now, there are clinics now that a lot of people get prescribed. Now, aside from the ones that I just mentioned, the most popular of all is called TB500, BPC 157. TB500 is secondarily to go along with BPC 157, which are healing peptides.
Right.
So BPC 157 stands for body protective compound, which tells you all you need to know, right?
Okay.
So this is like for a lot of people, we're talking like a miracle drug. And I can tell you right now, it gets the hype that it deserves. And I'm one of those that I will always call stuff out it's overhyped. It's overhyped. BPC is not overhyped. It's just not.
How is it best used? In the gut or for anything?
Okay, so it works primarily by promoting angiogenesis. All right, so that's the process of new blood vessel formation, and that's crucial for healing damaged tissues.
Sure.
So it's going to influence your expression of genes involved in the production of growth factors and cytokines, and that's associated with healing and regeneration.
Nice.
And so one of the other things that's awesome about it is that it actually helps to stabilize the gut-brain axis. It protects organs. It can prevent stomach ulcers. It can heal wounds. And it heals bones, tendons, nervous system. So it does it all. But the main thing that it does is if you're injured, so let's say, I don't know,
I just had it injected in my plantar fasciitis, plantars for my plantar fasciitis.
And that's one of the things I use it for tendonitis and my tennis elbow. But let's say you tear a meniscus in your knee. Okay. That you'll find, and I can't put a number on it because some people are faster healers, but you see people healing so much faster now. Well, there's a reason, because they're implementing these. Now, TB500 is another one known for healing. It's not on the same level as BPC 157, but they generally are, they're grouped together now. So when I take a gel where they're combined together.
Okay.
But they come in, injectable is always the best, by the way.
I thought so.
And you'll go straight to the injury site. So like for my elbow, I go right into it and it doesn't hurt because it's just an insulin syringe and whatever. But with TB500, same thing. Wound healing, reduced inflammation, enhanced flexibility, muscle growth and repair. So these two together, synergistically, it's like a must,
Interesting.
Yes. Now, another one that I like is the GHKCU, and that is like anti-aging peptide, right?
Nice.
So that one, and it works. It works. It's
How does it work? I'm interested. I have to say, when you just said wound healing faster, I thought, I'm in. I'm ready.
Yes.
Because I feel like as we age, and again, age 44 has been a reckoning type of year. I don't heal as fast. I got plantar fasciitis and I just waited. I was like, it'll go away. I'll be nice. I won't walk an hour a day in the evenings. I won't, when I'm lifting, I'll make sure I'm not jamming into my heels so heavy. It'll be fine. Yeah. Didn't go away at all. It just kept going and going. So I've now decided my new rule at this age is I better set a deadline on my planner. And by then, if I can't solve it holistically, I'm committing to solving it pharmaceutically or whatever is the Western injected solution, because to lose function and mobility in your gains because you're stubborn, which is what I just experienced this year, isn't a good life plan. And so the fact that you're telling me that I could reach into the class of peptides way earlier in the game is really fascinating.
What's crazy is, it's not really crazy because peptides are just amino acids, chained together. Basically by peptide bonds. Your body naturally produces these. Now, a lot of these are made synthetically, right? So it's exogenously taken, but a lot of these like BPC 157 is already made in your gut.
Right.
But there's so many, like epitalon. So epitalon is really used for like sleep enhancement.
Okay.
It regulates your melatonin levels. It improves sleep patterns, circadian rhythms, like we were talking about earlier, but it has antioxidant effects. It helps with disease prevention. It has anti-aging benefits. And obviously, the better you sleep, the better you're going to also, I mean, so it's like secondary as well. It slows down the aging process at a more cellular level.
Nice.
Yeah. So
you make me want to open up like a toolkit full of peptides that I can reach into all the time. But I have a feeling this project would get real expensive real fast, because the BCP 157 I did order and find for my feet was $100 for the vial.
We'll have to talk. I will help you out with so many of those things.
Cool.
I can give you.
Are you fine with taking it in supplement form? Because there's so many supplement companies coming out with them, or really injectables where it's at to just drive a result?
It's a slippery slope when it comes to who you should buy from and who you shouldn't.
I agree.
I have been in
all supplementation, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been in this industry for, like I said, over 15 years, and I only get close or work with or promote, like, especially with research chemical companies, they get real shady. And I have found a couple that I absolutely trust, that I've worked with for so many years. I know they have real facilities. They do everything by the book. They're very stringent, and they spend a lot of money. Some of these places make their stuff at home, I mean, and they're real good at marketing. So I know all of the dirty tricks and everything. I mean, I've been doing this, like I said, so long that I'm privy to a lot of information people generally would not be privy to.
Sure. So when it comes to your world of fitness and health, what are some key things that in the last few years you've kind of changed your approach and said, you know what, I'm going to try fasting now and I think it works, or, ketosis? What are some key changes you've made that in the past weren't your plan of action, but now as you're moving forward into the biohacking world or the anti-aging world, you're shifting your viewpoints or what you're trying?
I'm going to tell you right now. So, like I said, I battled an eating disorder or body dysmorphia for 30 years. All right. And and that's probably, that is the reason for the obsession with health and fitness. That, a lot of people that get into things, there's a reason. A lot of biohackers had something severe happen, some kind of something debilitating happened to somebody or themselves. They had health issues. Well, mine for health and fitness, I was an athlete and I was avid, but my fascination with learning everything was probably to do with being overweight when I was young and my fears, and then turning that into a knowledge base. So my point in saying that is as much as I know about nutrition, and as much as I coach it, and as much as I did with myself what I despise. And what I despise is that, poor me, I'm different. I'm so different. It's nobody knows, nobody understands. I despise that attitude. And I was doing it, being exactly what I hate. So I have been doing this to myself for so many years, living in a black hole. And I'm talking, I work out, I do an hour and a half of cardio a day, and then another hour to an hour and a half of strength training 5 days a week. And so you can imagine what I'm burning in a day. I mean, just in cardio alone, I'm showing between 1,500 and 1,700 calories a day. That's not counting anything else. Okay. And that's not counting strength training. That's not counting sitting in the sauna and just your general burning for the day. I'm burning well over 4,500 calories a day, easily. So obviously I'm supposed to be eating that amount. Well, I've literally been eating like between 1,500 and 1,700 calories a day on workout days, and on non-workout days, barely 1,000. And just throttling my attitude, my ability to sit here longer than 30 minutes and work. All I do all day is snack on veggies and peanut butter. And the only fats I was getting in my diet were peanut butter.
Wow.
And I was just eating egg whites, no meat, no fish, no nothing. Egg whites, oatmeal, yogurt, and fruit, and just destructive. Okay.
Sure.
So now, starting right there in October, I went and I just walked in one day to the kitchen to my wife and I said, okay, I'm done. She's looking at me like, what happened to my husband? I said, I want avocados today. We're going to go to the store. We're going to get like Ezekiel bread. We're going to get we're going to get fish. I'm going to start eating ground beef. So I have literally been eating a half a pound of ground bison every day. I've been eating a pound of like sea bass or salmon every day. And I'm eating like avocados every day. Basically, I went from like 15, 20 grams of fat to 100 grams of fat.
Okay.
And my protein is up to about 275. Now, my carbs, I'm keeping moderate. So I've been hooked up to all these machines and everything telling me to eat 300 and 400 grams of carbs. I'm doing about 150.
Okay.
And so my calories went from like 15 to 1700 to I'm trying to get to 2700. I'm about 26-ish.
Okay.
And like I said, my waist has gotten smaller. Now my weight's maintained and gotten a little bit more. My waist has gotten smaller. I'm more cut and I am so much more full of energy. I'm not craving anything. I'm happy all day. And I'm trying to get my fats up to about 120. I'm still falling a little short there. And I'll probably implement a few more carbs throughout the day. But I'm still tweaking this and learning it. I just know it's working well right now, like tremendously. And if I had been doing this for so many years, I probably wouldn't have been such an asshole so many years, like so irritable and less focused. And, and I know what I've done wrong and I am accountable and admit it, but I'm just so thankful. And this was a lot of prayer and a lot of work for me personally, because, I have one of the things I've learned is like grass-fed butter, ghee, and SCT oil because I do that in my coffee. So a lot of people will do their bulletproof coffee, and they'll do with MCT oil, which is a medium chain triglyceride.
Right.
I use a short chain triglyceride oil, which is SCT oil.
Okay.
And that is it's so much faster. That speeds your metabolism up. Your body uses it much quicker, and it feeds your brain, right? And I'm just like so hype. That's what I was drinking right here, right now was my second one, like of those. But, and then I'm cooking. I'm having like a half a serving to nearly a full serving of ghee or butter that I cook in. And I'm shocked that I was demonizing things that I knew worked. Yeah. And I'm enjoying like what I'm eating every day.
Yeah, I mean, if you grew up in the 80s, I grew up in the 80s, fat was the demon.
Well, yes.
So even though I teach eat a whole nutritious diet, it's a direct battle with myself every day. I have to remind myself, eat healthy fats, eat healthy fats. It's still not natural. I have to remind myself olive oil is good.
Yeah.
And it's a very conscious behavior because of how ingrained that thought process is. We were taught if you eat fat, you'll be fat.
Yeah, I know. It's so wrong. Like it's
and the brain needs fat. And so whenever I do eat good fats, I'm like, wow, my brain is awesome. My gut is awesome. So yes, I agree with you. Even if you're in the health and wellness world, you can teach something you love to teach and you know that what you teach is right. And on the inside, you're still battling the demons you've had since you were, let's say 15, 16 for me, that won't let you eat the way you teach. So it's a very conscious effort thing. And it's interesting you said SCT oil. So you add that to your coffee. Do you have like a brand you like?
I do either the Danger coffee or Bulletproof coffee. I love to ground my coffee. I stopped using like K-cups and everything. I have an AeroPress. So I like press them every single day. And I started doing that as my pre-workout instead of all the powders with all the blue dyes and shit in them and all of the bad ingredients. But the SCT oil, I did a podcast with the guys. They're called Happy Healthy Guys, and they are the only ones that make it and sell it. Okay. And so they got me onto it, and I'm telling you, I can't go without it. I will not go without it. Like I have it twice a day, every day. Okay. It is the best. But yes,
I'm always curious to try new things, and
I'll send you a code. I have a coupon code for it. So I'll send it to you. It's amazing.
And as you know, metabolism's a big big project as we age. It's a big topic. And I think that's because it's not even, I think we know through science that our body ages, our cells age. And it's interesting. Last year I was speaking at a conference on longevity, and all the research showed your cells just go downhill.
Yeah.
And I thought, I am not doing that. I am totally going to defy it. And this year was such a rough year where I didn't win on my health automatically like I always do. And I thought, wow, Shivani, you're really going to hybridize your toolkit fast. Like you have a lot of new tools you have to reach into. So SCT oil is something I've never heard of. Are there some other big favorites that you have when it comes to your metabolism where you're like, you know what? These are the things I found that worked that are like my key top toolkit.
That's a big one. The grass-fed butter or the ghee is another big one because they're releasing CLA. You know what I mean? And it's a big deal for metabolism. That's where the fats come in, where people are missing it. It's just about eating the right kind of fats. And you want to avoid the seed oils. You want to avoid like the heavy sugars and things like that. So I'm not saying all fats are good. I'm saying the healthy fats, you need them. You thrive on them, and they're metabolism boosters.
When you say release CLA, will you explain that to the audience?
So you have to, and it's like, hey, I'm going to pull something up real quick because I had something that I would like to read to you if I can find it. But basically, this is why you want to do grass-fed, because I wanted this direct number here. So here it is. So grass-fed butter contains up to 500% more CLA than regular butter. So that's one of the reasons I kept saying grass-fed butter, grass-fed butter, grass-fed butter. There, try to say that to tongue twist yourself. But when you have that more of a release, and it's all about, and omega-3 is also in there. Mm-hmm. And so it does come down. That's why I only eat like grass-fed beef or bison, for example, because you have to be careful what you're eating and what they're being fed, because like the cattle and everything, they're being fed on a grain diet or corn or whatever it is that they're, having. Yeah. And it's such a big deal. I wanted that particular number. I'm glad I found that, because 500% more is insane.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
It's a drastic difference. So CLA itself is, and you can take supplements of it, but it's not like getting it from food, right? So it's conjugated linoleic acid. Yeah. And it has so many different benefits that I never even gave it the time of day. Literally never gave it the time of day, never thought about it, but it helps with weight loss. It helps with metabolism boosting. Wow. One of the main things about it is that it improves metabolic health. It can lower, and here's what's crazy. You're getting that with like your fats like that, but it lowers the risk of heart disease, which goes against everything that you're being told, right?
True.
And it can improve immune function, things like that. So I'm looking at these things and it's so contradictory. And that's where I despise so much of the rhetoric and the literature that gets put out there that's nonsense. It's like they want, so I am like the furthest thing from a conspiracy guy. I do everything on facts and what I observe and who I talk to. If you live under a rock, if you don't understand and realize the statin industry, they want to demonize cholesterol and put every single human on a statin. And first of all, crashing your LDL is one of the worst things that you could do. It really is. And they put the fear of God into you for that. Bless you. And and they just, it's so wrong and so messed up. People get put on these things that don't need them at all. And it's so frustrating. I mean, it's another topic. Yeah. And I don't want to be that guy, but it's a fact,
Sure.
So I would just advise people, and this is why I do what I do. And I know that when you come to somebody like me or, a doctor that doesn't take insurance, it does cost more, but it in the long run, that's why we're here. Is to save people, to actually give them the right kind of guidance and save them from all the nonsense.
That's very true. Do you have any other favorites? Anything else new that we haven't heard about?
In terms of like
metabolism boosting, anti-aging, any favorites in the biohackings?
Yes. One thing I can tell you with metabolism is when you undereat and like you do the things I was doing, you'll just crash your metabolism. You will. And I do feel like eating timing is a big thing. So if you are eating, and so what I do is I get up and first thing in the morning is I go for a walk. I say a few prayers and then I immediately go for a walk, 15, 20 minutes. On my workout days, non-workout days, I do like 30, and it depends. Like today it was all icy out. So it was like, but, and then I wait about an hour to an hour and a half before I have my first coffee. But I will fast a little bit in the morning. But I think if you're going to eat breakfast in the morning, I would make it more fats and proteins and get more satiety, you don't want to have carbs super early in the morning. I don't think that's a good idea. I feel like it's a much better to keep yourself satisfied. You're not thinking about eating, things like that. Save your carbs for later when you need that fuel, that different type of fuel. I mean, depending on when you work out, when you go do things, but be mindful. Have apple cider vinegar before you have carbohydrates, something like that. If you're making oats, for example, you can let them sit all day and try to get some of the starches out. I don't know, it's not really scientifically proven, but some people believe it works. Put a little bit of the apple cider vinegar in there and it'll help. There's so many different things you can do. Dress them up. Like I said, have some vegetables before, or put some, like with my oats, I put protein powder and fats in there, and that really eradicates the glucose spikes.
Nice.
There's just different methods that I prefer. Now I'm a big peptides guy, like I said. So for like performance, like with peptides, for example, I love tesamorelin, because tesamorelin will start to like really cut fat, but allow you to gain muscle at the same time. So I'm a big fan of that. Sermorelin is very popular too. That's going to be a really nice growth hormone releasing agent, which growth hormone has a slew of benefits, as we know. I have so many different hacks with peptides and SARMs. Like I could go on for years, and people pay me to just set up protocols, and that's what I do. I've been doing that for so long. But I will say this: don't just make assumptions on things. I always tell people, they tell me, "Oh, I'm tired. I need TRT," or "Oh, I'm this. I need this," or "I'm that." And I just don't operate on assumptions, because you could literally come to me or you, and you could tell us, "No, I just want you to base it off these side effects and these problems I have and put me on something." And I can do it, but I'm not going to do it, because you and I both know we could address the wrong issue based on something, because one thing could have multiple reasonings, and we could really create a new problem or exacerbate an existing problem if we guess wrong.
True. Very true.
So, I'm a numbers guy, and I like specifics on things. So
nice.
Yeah.
But I think it's important. I think we, when you're in the health and wellness world, you love using yourself as a guinea pig. And so I'm always buying things, trying things.
Me too.
My partner in my business, she'll look across from me, and I'll come back from a conference and I'll try this and I'll try this. And like, I'm sitting here on all sorts of things. So I'm like, sure, I'll try whatever. And she's like, I can't believe you're so brave with your body. And I'm like, well, I go to conferences and I meet the founders. I meet the different companies. Like I met you and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for you to try my turmeric and let me know your thoughts. Because you're a practitioner in the space. Like you are in this fitness world. I'm just so curious, like, how do you experience it? And that's kind of the most fun part, I think, of the work we get to do is explore and be these adventurous explorers, and then bring back what actually works.
Yes. And then I'm not trying to plug your line by any stretch, but you brought it up, and I just got home yesterday and I'm ready. Like I told you, my wife is like the tea queen, and so she got me drinking tea, because I'm not like I started to drink matcha tea, but this is what I love about meeting people like you and other people that are in biohacking. I am used to a fitness world, and it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to get the same type of stuff, right? You're going to get your pre-workouts, your BCAAs, your testosterone boosters. They're going to be packaged a little different. They're going to have a couple little different ingredients, but they're all going to be the same. Literally. It just is what it is. Some people are just going to have more money to market, but somebody like you've got different types of teas, different types of things that I've never really tried or used. You've got your main products, like your formulas with your turmeric, but it's different. It stands out because it's made differently, or it has this XYZ different in it. It's not just like walking into vitamin shop and just looking around and getting the same old shit that you can get. I mean, you know what I mean? And you don't even know what you're getting in there.
True.
So this is what I love about this, is when somebody specializes in it, and I understand that when you're not a big box place, it costs you more to go get it made, and it costs you more to make it how you want, because you want it to be perfect. And people don't understand that, but you get what you pay for. And I always am willing to pay for something that I trust, that's of quality, as opposed to something people don't like. For instance, you go in and you think you're buying magnesium.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like 10, 12 different forms of magnesium. And then you go and realize, oh shit, when you actually research magnesium, what did you just buy? It's garbage. It's trash.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's
So,
so important that we're so careful about
yeah.
what we're buying, what we're using, where we're buying it, what those brands are, who owns those brands,
Yes.
what multinational global conglomerate owns that brand, and what are their world agendas.
Right.
Because that's a big issue. And I know it's like the American dream to build your company and sell it, and that's just so cool. That scares the crap out of me. Because if you don't have the same vision I have for the world, what are you going to do with what I made? You know?
Yeah.
And we've seen that time and again. Because if it's truly a beautiful, incredible product that impacts it, will get out there in the world. But in the end, if it's not going to be made for good or made really well, what's the point?
Well, that's just it. And I'm not saying every big company has a bad motive, but most of them do. And they're either trying to buy you to just rid themselves of you and just get rid of you, or to make it like a bad name, or to make their tweaks and changes on it to cut costs. And, that's what you're going to run into. So it really comes down to the motive or the moral, I guess. I mean, it's hard to turn down a lot of money, but at the same time, if it's like, what's my main end point here? Do I want to do this forever? I mean, I've sold a lot of brands before and built them, and but it is what it is, because it was the fitness world. But when you're doing something different, it's hard. I can't say what I would do, and nobody can. It's not fair.
Yeah, you
Until-
can't. You
So
never know till you're there, right?
no, but people need to understand, a lot of the things that you buy, when you get them at a certain price, they're not in like FDA registered facilities. You don't know what you're getting in each capsule. That's why a lot of like really good cardiologists and doctors will tell you, don't use this and this, because you might be getting a pill that's nothing but fillers. And then you might be getting one with like double the dose, triple the dose. Some of these might not have anything in them. You just don't know.
Yeah.
So
what I love right now is in the supplement industry, there is a whole category of supplements that are medical grade, designed for doctors' offices. And you and I are going to the same conferences that have those.
Yeah.
So, for example, A4M, IFM, these are only lines built for functional medicine doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And those same lines are oftentimes in chiropractor offices and different practitioner offices. Doctors, first of all, know when something doesn't work, because they can tell in the patient base. Like I hear all the time from my doctors, my patients love your stuff. Their joint pain is gone. So it's a clear answer that yes, it works. And then secondly, there's really fast rising standards in the supplement industry if you choose to self-select and participate in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the competition in the doctor market is third-party testing, ID testing, microbiome, microbe testing, heavy metal testing. In my case, domestic production. I make it in the United States with third-party testing, so I know each step of the way and how it worked, and I control the suppliers too.
Right.
I don't allow them to supply for me. I chose those suppliers.
Right.
So that's where I think it's really cool that when I go and buy a vitamin D now, and I know the company, I know what I'm getting. Because we've raised ourselves to that standard so that doctors can trust us, which was important. So we're in a new age now where if you are willing to invest and figure out through functional medicine and your chiropractors and your special practitioners, your integrative practitioners, which supplements to take, you can find that best quality to deliver that result.
Yes, it's huge. And that's what I love about this, because like I said, I'm so jaded from all the stuff that I've been through and been around and seen and witnessed. I mean, I have seen, I was, I guess, blessed and cursed at the same time, because I was in that industry, cursed, but blessed because I was able to learn and gather so much and understand what really went on. Now I had to deal with a lot of really like bad situations and people in general with horrible motives, but there are good people there too. It's just, the problem is with so many bad ones, they give the good ones a bad name too. And it's hard to overcome and build accountability and credibility.
True.
And with the biohacking world, there's still some bad people out there with bad motives, but there's a lot more good ones.
True.
That I've found. I've seen some though that I could, tell you later that I'm like, man, this.
Well, it's hard to judge sometimes. Like I go to the conferences, I'm like, who's red light? I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of you just look like you were first to market, and that's why you're the biggest. But everyone's using you. Should I buy that one? Should I buy this other one? So I really ask a lot of questions. I meet founders. I do a vibe check. Does this feel good? Does this not feel good? And sometimes I wait a year before I buy a tool, because I'm like, I don't want to waste my money, time, or energy on something that's not going to deliver a result. In the last few years, I met the founder of Therasage, and I loved him, and I love his ethos and what he's about. So his infrared sauna I got because I was like, you I trust. You I would trust with my life. That if you made something, it's with such quality and intention, I can trust it.
Yeah.
But red light panels and these things, it's hard sometimes to pick who you're going to trust.
I found one that I trusted. I've met with him several times in person, and I trust the tech, and I trust like the studies, and he's got different things that he's shown me that no one else has that I can see, like visually see. So I'm like, okay, cool, here we go. And I found that through some trusted people that I know. But I have to, even then, sometimes it's not the people that I trust. I trust their word, but sometimes they may be a little bit more not as thorough in terms of who they're investigating or not. And I'm so used to it at this point and what I've been through in my life in general that I'm really good with that.
Sure. So when it comes to the topic we've been discussing today, I know we're hitting the top of the hour. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience today? Any other key messages that we didn't get to cover? Anything that you're excited about in the coming year when it comes to your health and your work? Any final thoughts?
I am more excited than anything to just be able to be in this space and to do what I feel like I'm supposed to do. And I feel like right now that with administrative changes and ideas that are changing now, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, this is just a simple fact. And if you can't see that and you're so jaded, then you're just never going to get it. But things are about to change. We have the opportunity right now to be on the forefront of a change. Like people are standing up. They're sick and tired of being taken advantage of with our foods, being misled, being put into situations where we don't have options for our own health. Yeah. And right now, when they come in, there is our one chance. It's our one chance to make this go and to open everybody's eyes to reality. But people that have platforms can't be scared anymore. People that have voices, we have to all work together. We have to all, despite any difference of opinion or thought, we have to try to work together and do this for the greater good of everybody. And I don't want to sound like one of those holy rollers that doesn't do anything wrong. I am not that guy. I have made a million mistakes, but I also know this. There's an opportunity and a chance, like I said, and the people that really want to do it are the ones that are accountable. They admit mistakes. They work together. They don't think they're perfect. They do whatever they can to help. And you can tell the difference on who's genuine and who's full of shit or not.
True.
You really can. And you can see right through that. The people that act like they're so holy and perfect and then go do exactly what they're saying, or the people that'll sit here and tell you their flaws, their faults, everything they've done wrong, and how they're going to fix it and help you.
True. I'm excited. I hope we have such change. Water, air, food, poisonous food, all those things. I have high hopes that everything will change.
I really firmly believe that everything has happened for a reason. The writing's on the wall on how everything transpired and how so many obstacles were overcome that would seem impossible, like throwing everything at somebody and he still gets through. I really believe that we had to suffer for a lot of the things we did wrong for a while, and now things are about to change. And I see that with so many people that are good people that are trying to do it. I know this. I ain't scared of shit, and I'm going to do whatever I can to do to help and put it out there and whatever. I have no fear in that, and I'm as driven as can be.
Nice. I love that. I love that positive message for the new year.
Yeah.
Let's all support what's about to unfold so we can have a whole new world that's less polluted and less damaging for all of us.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Dylan, so much for coming onto the podcast.
Absolutely.
This was enlightening as always. It was so good to see you. I know you have the Dylan Gemelli podcast. You have your YouTube channel, Dylan Gemelli Biohacking, which is a big channel. Will you share where everyone can find you?
Yeah, I made it so simple. It's just at Dylan Gemelli, all one word. That's Instagram's my biggest, Facebook, X, TikTok, which I hate, but I still post there. It's got to, I use them all. There's new stuff coming constantly, and now I have just started to. I'm going to put everything on Apple, Spotify, everything. So that thing's going to be loaded with like old podcasts, new stuff. Like it's going to be really decked out and sweet. So
awesome. Perfect. Well, it was so great to have you on the podcast.
Thank
Everyone
you.
follow Dylan to learn more about his biohacking adventures and all the things he's doing out in the world. Dylan, thank you for joining me. And everyone, if you'd like to follow me and the Fusionary Health Podcast, you can visit drshivani.com. And I'll see you next week for the next episode. Good morning and welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Shivani Gupta, and this is the podcast dedicating to recalibrating your health every day. My goal is to help you wake up each day energized by addressing root causes and giving you new approaches to preventive health. The more we know about integrative health, the more empowered we are in building the vibrant health we want.